Hello, and welcome to my channel. My name is Jonathan Cohn, and today I have my book review of the book Persephone by Kevin J. Anderson and Jeffrey Morris. This is a brand new science fiction novel, an original novel, and it's set like an original universe, well, kind of, by Kevin and Jeffrey. For those of you who don't know the history of this book, briefly, Jeffrey Morris is a movie television writer-director, and he has written this script for this movie concept called Persephone, and he wants to turn it into a big movie. However, he hasn't been able to get traction with major studios yet. And so what he did is he teamed up with Kevin to turn it into a novel to try to generate discussion about it. And so the two of them did a Kickstarter towards the end of last year that was actually quite successful. It got, I think, like $42,000 raised. So it was a very successful Kickstarter. And this was my first ever Kickstarter to participate in because I had thought about doing the secret projects, but they were for Brandon Sanderson, and they were really expensive. And I just felt like I'm going to get the Tor release because they will be released through Tor. This does not have the same thing. I do not know if or when this book will ever get released through traditional publishing, and I've known that Kevin has had a solid indie publisher that he's been producing himself through his company Wordfire Press. And so you can actually see their logo at the bottom of this, WFP. And so I decided, you know what, I'll just get the hardcover. I'll join at that level. And so I got this book, which has a very interesting cover. And I know what this cover means because I've read the book, and I'm like, interesting choices here. But this book, it's a science fiction novel. So going into what the book's about, this is basically Earth has had climate and atomic catastrophes that have basically destroyed Earth. And so, seeing this coming, Earth sent what's called ark ships, which are these giant ships that are carrying maybe a couple thousand people, trying to get them to a new planet where we can populate and start anew. And one of these ark ships gets to Proxima b, which is this kind of planet that we believe basically can support human life. It just needs a few tweaks, but we believe it'll work for us. And so after traveling for like 50 years, the ship arrives at Proxima b, and they rename it Persephone. And the book is about the initial four the initial four, not even astronauts, space people. The four workers who are tasked with getting everything ready, getting the satellites in orbit around Proxima, getting all the hubs ready, and all that stuff, getting everything ready. So this is very much in the vein of hard science fiction. This is, focusing on space exploration, going to the next thing, that type of thing. And I think it handles all those topics really well. There is an element of the softer sci-fis, of the more space opera. There's an element of that here, but it is still a majorly a hard science fiction novel. I would classify it as hard science fiction with elements of space opera in there, in a similar way that I did with Les Johnson's Mission to Metheny, if you saw that review. But this book, it has basically two male protagonists that you follow and two female protagonists, and then of course it has the captain of the ship. And the captain was just a character I just found really interesting. I really liked the captain the most of all the characters that were present in the book. And I thought her story, her background, and what happens to her on the 50-year journey was really riveting. And her chapters, I found myself racing to read those because I was like, oh, that is so cool what you're doing with the captain. The other characters were good, but comparatively, they weren't quite as interesting. There is something towards the end of this book that is just frustrating. And I'll be getting into spoilers to tell you what is it that frustrated me about this book. But basically, Kevin Anderson and Jeffrey Morris have a problem with the future after this book. And the way they wrote it, they kind of, I think, cut themselves off a little bit from being able to have that, to carry that out. And so, if, for instance, the movie never gets made and they want to just continue writing novels, or if the movie does get made and they continue writing novels, if the story continues, I think that they lost a tremendous opportunity with taking the story in the direction that they took it. And so I think the book's weaker for that. But then again, it's an interesting, the book's about space and about the dangers of space and about the dangers of landing on another planet. And the themes are really strong. They're environmental themes. You don't have to agree with all the themes to understand them and find them really fascinating. And I really found them fascinating. So I thoroughly enjoyed this book. I think it was worth the price. I paid $30, which this is a smaller hardcover than normal, than you'd normally get. Let me think of a comparison. A traditional hardcover looks about this size, so you can see it's a tad bit smaller in each way. However, I still think it's worth it for the price point. It's good quality. The interior, the print type and stuff is good, and it has something most people are not going to care about this at all, but it has a fantastic copyright page. That is a chef's kiss. That is how you do a copyright page right there. I loved it. It had all the relevant information I needed. One thing on the printing I'm getting into a super minutia of publishing. There's no barcode on the back. That will make it very difficult for publishers to ever sell this one day. And maybe that's because this is the Kickstarter exclusive. I believe that Kevin's company, WordFire Press, intends to publish this regularly one day, but you couldn't sell this in a bookstore because there's no barcode or anything, which is a little frustrating. And by the way, getting this onto Goodreads has been a nightmare. As I record this, this still isn't on Goodreads because Goodreads, the librarians are not helping. But I still overall really enjoyed the book. I'm going to give it like an 8 out of 10. Like, I really enjoyed it. I have some gripes with it. I think that there's some things I would have changed with the story, but it's really good. It's only like 270 pages. I read it in like a day and a half time. Like, I started it in the bus on a bus ride for my school for an event, and then I read half of it in the bus ride, and then the other half I read the next morning. So like I read it really fast. So I think that another reader could read it really fast, which is one of the advantages of the book. And of course, it has those really short chapter lengths that Kevin is known for. But I think it's worth it. I think you can tell that it has the little bit of elevated quality that Kevin sometimes brings to his novels, and that Jeffrey Morris also brings as the writer of the screenplay. But there's a few scenes that I'm like, I know Kevin added that scene, and there's a few scenes that's like, I don't think that was Kevin. So I'd be curious to talk to him and see, did you add that? Who added that? So if you've read Persephone, let me know your thoughts in the comments section down below. Did you participate in the Kickstarter? Are you planning to buy this book when it goes on sale from WordFire Press? Let me know those thoughts in the comments section. And until next time, I'm Jonathan, and thank you for watching.